everyone. Welcome to the cottage and welcome to another episode of my Celtic Duir Ogham series. I'm so glad to be back. I had a wonderful vacation, but I missed you guys and I'm so very glad to be back. This is the second episode in the second branch. So if you're confused, so am I. But no, but this is the second branch. So we're going into the branch of gaining wisdom. The first branch was the branch of beginnings, and that was birch to, I believe, ash. And now we are on the second branch, which began with hawthorn. And now we are discussing Duir Oak. And that's two lefties. So two lefties. Duir Oak. And let me tell you, this was a lot of homework, you guys. That's why I didn't get it done yesterday. I actually got home late in the afternoon and started right into my homework. And here it is, afternoon on a Monday, and I just got it done. And boy, there's a lot of lore about oak. And I left some alone. I thought there's no way I can fit this in a video. But I did want to go over these two oracles with you just to remind you, if you don't have the Ogham staves themselves, you can work with the Celtic Tree Oracle by Sherilyn Hidalgo. That is this oracle right here. I did trim it because it was huge. And then the Spirit of Nature Oracle, which is the one with all the faces. And I did trim that one as well. So don't expect it to be this small. So I wanted to remind you guys, there are lots of Duir Ogham and Celtic oracles out there. But these have been my favorite. I've had some come and go, and these are just my personal favorites. So I wanted to go over those for you really quick. Just to remind you guys about which oracle were my favorite. So these are the ones I've been using in this video thus far. Okay, so Duir Oak is the letter D in the Celtic tree alphabet. And the folk names are the Royal Oak, the Druid's Oak, or the Druid's Tree. And in Brehon law, Duir, the oak, was the primary chieftain tree. And this tree was held in high regard above all the other trees. I mean, oak was the mighty oak, and it was the highest of high regard to the Druids. They held it as high regard as maybe they would a god or a spirit. So very, very important was this tree to the Celts and the Druids. Now, the oak is an exceptionally strong wood, and as the most famous of trees, they have been considered a symbol of Britain itself, drawn from the days of their special significance to the Druids and their use in the making of ships for the Elizabethan Navy. And you can see a picture here. Yeah, I mean, talk about a strong, durable, enduring wood. I mean, it doesn't get much stronger than the oak. In fact, so many oaks were felled for the Navy, it almost became extinct until it became the first tree species to be protected by legislation. Thus, planting a very small acorn in the British consciousness, if you will, towards the future growth of environmental conservation. So they had to take strides to preserve it. So it is the wise guardian of the green world. So they had to take strides to preserve it, even long ago as this was. So famous ancient English oaks include Hearn's Oak in Windsor Great Park, from which Hearn is said to ride out with the Wild Hunt every Samhain. So you can see it's no longer around, but we did dig up a beautiful drawing, as you can see here. The major oak of Sherwood Forest, where the Green Man outlaw Robin Hood took refuge, and this is still alive. You can actually go and visit this tree, and you can see where they have put posts to hold it up, to preserve it. Isn't that amazing that it is still around? And then the twin oaks, Gog and Magog in Glastonbury, which bear the name of two ancient British giants. Now, they're not doing too well. One is kind of dying, but the other one is thriving, but they are still around. And it's sad, but you used to be able to actually go and visit these trees and touch them and leave offerings. But because of the vandalism that has happened, you are no longer able to do that. And I think that that is so sad that people have mistreated them and ruined it for everyone else. And it breaks my heart. It truly does. And then the district of Gospel Oak in London is named after an ancient oak under which King Edward the Confessor pledged to keep and defend the laws of England. And you can see it has been industrialized and commercialized, but it's still there. And even though you can see that it is made into a district, it is still surrounded by beautiful oaks. So the name for oak in Irish, Dara, or in the Ogham, Duir, share the root word Druid, which means one with the wisdom of the oak. And traditionally, the Druid's grove was amongst oak trees, or it focused upon a single oak. And in fact, there are many oaks in the UK locally known as the Druid's Oak. And this is a lingering trace of this practice. And the Druids' close association with oak trees shows its significance as an access point to spirit and even deity, a signifier of the values that they held sacred. And it is suggested that the Druids held the oak tree as a being of supreme importance, that some argued that they worshipped the trees themselves. And that's not too far of a stretch, really. The oaks were revered as representatives of the gods and served as manifestation points and centers of focus for magic and spiritual practice, so much so that later Romano-Celtic Jupiter columns were decorated with carved oak leaves and acorns. You can see how this has kind of bled over into Roman times. Yeah, I find that so fascinating. So quickly, let's just take a look at these cards here real quick. I love that you can see the leaf and then the acorn as such a significance in here instead of the tree itself. I love that about Sharon Hidalgo's work. Sometimes she glorifies the tree and sometimes she glorifies the fruit or the leaf of the tree. And I just love that. Acorn leaves are so distinct and it's unmistakable. And I love that. Whereas here you can see how strong and mighty and kind of serious that this face is. He's just very stern, very firm, very strong. It's kind of someone you don't want to mess with, right? I love it. I love it. And it's such a personality. That's why I love the Spirit of Nature Oracle, because each tree has its own personality, as it should, as it should. Okay. So, speaking of having its own personality, the oak tree is synonymous with the legend of the Oak King, a symbol of male sovereignty and the fertility god of the green world. The primary purpose of the kingship is to protect and provide for the people via the responsible use of power and energy. Now, sovereignty in the individual runs along those same lines. And Duir means door as well as oak tree. And oak groves are places where the other world, the sky world, and the world of earth meet. Oak trees are supreme guardian spirits, providing the ability of shamanic flight between worlds and encouraging spiritual development. Now, at the same time, they provide stability and strength for the people. They are father figures and guardians of the soul's journey. I love that because not only do they carry that wisdom, but they help you to gain even further wisdom. Now, being a god of fertility, the Oak King is also the king of summer. Now, this echoes back to the oak representing the god of the sun in early or pre-Druidic tradition, where the sun god gradually fell through the seasons, rising again at the winter solstice. The Oak King is one half of the god's dual nature, the other half being the Holly King, the hunter god of winter and the underworld. So the Holly King reigns for half of the year, and then the Oak King for the other half. And I love that story because you get to see them reign supreme for their half of the year. And I love that. Now, Duir also means, I know we got three meanings here. Duir also means rutting deer. Its root word deru developing into meaning oak, door, and stag. Now, there are also connections between the oak, stags, and various Celtic gods such as Cernunnos. This is one of my patron gods, so obviously I had to include him. And Shla Gefis, or Thutha Gefis, as well as several mysterious antlered goddesses, such as Ellen of the Ways. This connection can also be seen in the oak's sacredness to the father of the Celtic gods, Vidagda, the Irish good god, who is also symbolic of the rutting deer. And he's famous for his great strength, his cauldron of plenty, which provided for the people, and his mighty club, who protected them, and his great earthly physicality. He was huge, as you can see here. Other examples include the Sumerian god Enki, who was also known as Duir Ogham, the great stag. With the oak, we have a symbol of kingship at the height of power and ability. Now, oaks are also sacred to Tyrannus, the Celtic god of storms and lightning, as well as Zeus, Jupiter, and Thor. Oak trees which have been hit with lightning are especially magical and of the greatest druidic significance. However, oaks are sacred to the goddess Bridget, my other patron goddess, whose sanctuary at Kildare in Ireland was originally an oak grove. It gets its name from Kildara, the church of the oak tree, as Bridget became Christianized into a Celtic saint. So they tried to kill off the goddess part, and she just said, nope, I'm still here. So they Christianized her, and she became a saint. And I love that story. Like you can't just get rid of me. I'm going to stick around. Love it. Now in Greece, the rustling of oak leaves was used as a divinatory tool, as was the movement of birds in its branches. And it's likely they were used by Druids in similar ways. Timber circles or wood hinges of the Neolithic and early Bronze Age were made of oak. And at Seahenge in Norfolk in the East UK is a circular enclosure of oak posts enclosing an inverted oak stump, which was clearly a ritual significance. These give testimony to the oak's great importance as an axis mundi, a central point upon which all existence turns. Perhaps the henge structures even functioned as representations of the gods themselves to both the Celts and their earlier Bronze Age and Neolithic ancestors. There are certain things that, whether you want to acknowledge them as sacred or not, they are still there and you can't get rid of them. And this is one. I just find it so fascinating. Now, when seeking favor with the gods or a cure for illness, the Celts of Gaul hung offerings and gifts on oaks, then circled them 9 times while reciting an incantation or prayer of thanks. Because they were believed to hold divine wisdom, oaks were regarded as justice trees. Now, unfortunately, it was the opposite situation for Joan of Arc. Her visits to the fairy oak of Bourlemont aroused suspicion that she worshipped the tree or its otherworld spirit in exchange for strength in battle. Unfortunately, she got a bad deal all around, Now, along with ash and hawthorn, the oak was part of the Celtic triad of powerful fairy trees. Each Celtic tribe had its special oak tree that functioned as the community's talisman. I love that. Now, in Germany, oak twigs were hung outside with windows and in front of stable doors for protection on Walpurgis. However, they were never to be carried across the threshold. Now, it was believed in Somerset, England, that angry spirits would haunt the trunk of an oak if the tree had been coppiced or severely cut back to encourage new growth and increase the amount of firewood that could be harvested. Now, such a tree was avoided after sundown. Yeah, you don't want to be messing with that. In other areas, fairies were said to inhabit some oaks. The holes created by branches that had fallen off were known as fairy doors. It was believed that touching a fairy door could heal disease. And in India, a hole in an oak was believed to be a pathway for the spirit of the tree to pass in and out. How cool is that? That is so interesting to me. I kind of want my own oak tree now. All right. on to practical and magical uses. Now, among the most magical parts of the oak are the acorns. Now, they're phallic in shape, so they've been used in love and fertility magic for millennia, as well as a focus of power at the tip of wands and staves by many ancient pagan cults. Lovers used to place acorns in a bowl of water to see if they would stay together. If the acorns drifted apart, so would the couple in question. Now, a spell from the 14th century to prevent unfaithfulness in wives was to place 2 halves of an acorn under the woman's pillow. That's all you had to do. Place those under the pillow and they would remain faithful. Now, acorn necklaces were often worn during magical workings to contact the oak's great strength and sovereignty, as are an oak's leaves. As both the door and guardian between realms, oak can be seen as a magical passport, offering access and protection to all realms, and can be useful for contacting the hunter gods and goddesses and those connected with lightning, such as Thor, Tyrannus, Zeus, and as was Adraste, Bridget, Danu, and Athena. In fact, acorns are useful for contacting any ruler-type god, as the oak occupies such a central pivotal position in all tree magic. Acorns can be used as charms to attract love, good luck, fertility, wealth, or security. After magically charging them with the tree's permission, they can be carried in a pouch or upon a cord around the neck. Carefully inscribe them with what you want to attract and leave them to do their work. Bury them after a while and they will continue to work as the tree grows or the acorn returns to the soil. Now, acorns, oak leaves, and bark can all be burnt as incense alone or in a blend for empowerment, divination, healing, or journeying, or for love and money magic. They are always more powerful if they are charged by the tree and the tree spirit works with you. Now, don't forget, you can always use your Ogham to charge anything, right? If you don't have the actual tree, you can always use the Ogham sigil. Now, talisman of oak inscribed with the name Tyrannus can help protect against storms and lightning. Now, oak galls, which are made as the tree's reaction to parasites, also have a great many magical uses. One ancient method of divination uses a gall to predict the fate and welfare of the nation as a whole. Very cool. So great is the oak's reputation as a tree of sovereignty. Now, the gall was broken into at special times of the year, most likely Beltane and Samhain when the veil is thinnest, and its contents foretold what was to come for the following season. An ant inside meant a good harvest. A spider meant pestilence. A maggot meant sickness. A worm meant famine. And a flying insect meant war. Galls were also used to divine whether children were bewitched. A gall was placed in a bowl of water and set beneath the child's bed. If the gall floated, the child was well. If it sank, the child was afflicted and more steps needed to be taken. I don't know how dependable that is, but that's the lore. Oaks are magically connected to the mysteries of the mistletoe, which Pliny the Elder recorded as being ritually cut from the tree at the winter solstice with a golden sickle. And this was probably bronze, not gold, by the way. The mistletoe, as the semen of the sun god or the oak king, was both sacrificed and reborn to bring fertility back to the land with the distant spring. Mistletoe was called druidlus, the druid's herb, as well as all heal, due to its many healing and magical properties. These are thought to vary depending on what tree the mistletoe grows upon. Mistletoe growing on the oak has special significance. The combination of oak and mistletoe in magical working lends extra power and manifestation potential, as well as extreme fertility. So don't use it unless you really, want that fertility. Now, traditionally, it is hung over beds for this purpose and to ensure healthy pregnancy. The addition of oak will help with becoming a good parent and provider. Now, oak is extremely durable and close-grained wood. After the first 100 years of growth, it grows very slowly, making it strong and long-lasting. Traditionally, it was used to make bridges as well as houses. Neolithic trackways made of oak across wetlands and marshes have been found in the UK, still well preserved after thousands of years. Oak was also central to shipbuilding, from Viking longboats to those used by the Navy of Elizabeth I, used in the war against the Spanish Armada. The very earliest boats found in Britain were made from single oak trunks. Oak was also used for coffins, one famous example being the supposed coffins of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere, discovered at Glastonbury Abbey. How cool is that? Now, oak leaves are used to make wine. Acorns are edible and were a staple diet for our Neolithic ancestors, as well as still being consumed in acorn coffee to this day. They are also used for animal feed, and Romans used to roast acorns for feasts and made acorn bread. That sounds pretty good. I think I'd like to try some acorn bread. Now, your linked concepts that you need to remember for when you're doing this type of magic to make sure that you have your Ogham sigil is stability, endurance, effort, skill, truth, leadership, justice, fertility, foundation, longevity, deities, thresholds, gateways, doorways, sacred places, and groves. So anytime you're working with these specific concepts, make sure to use your Ogham stave as a special sigil, just that little cherry on top, just a little extra push for your magic. Now, on to correspondences. The elements are earth, air, and fire. Your zodiac is Gemini, Leo, Cancer, Sagittarius, and Virgo. Your deities, Artemis, Apollo, Aries, Balder, Brigid, Demeter, Cronos, Caridwen, Sybil, the Dagda, Diana, the Green Man, Hades, Hera, the Morrigan, Odin, Pan, Thor, and Zeus. Their colors are dark brown and black. Your totems are bull, rabbit, hare, dryads, elves, fairies, cicadas, wren, and woodpecker. Their calendar is April 18th through May 15th, 7th lunation, and it's April and May. Now, your related species, guys, check it out. Every other species on the planet can be substituted for oak. You heard me right. You heard me right. This is the awesome part. If you cannot find oak, you can use any other tree. Ta-da! All right. So, on to healing. Let me grab a drink. All right. One method still useful today is the use of oak galls for healing. Now, there's a process, so pay attention to this one. First, you must befriend and honor the tree the galls come from so that the oak gall will work for you. Now, you might ask, does it have to be an oak gall? What did I just say? You can substitute any other tree that makes a gall. Okay? So, get creative, all right? Now, as an alternative, an oak ball can be made by binding tightly strips of bark into a bundle, asking the oak for its assistance as you tie it, perhaps also intoning the word Duir. Ask the tree to help you with the healing, whether for yourself or another, and tell it what you need to happen. Ask for its advice as well as its magical assistance. Allow plenty of time for quiet so that you may hear its message. This is a communion you are going into. So don't just take it and run. You need to respect the tree. The ball may then be charged in sunlight and worn by those in need of the healing. The ball can also be rolled over the body to convey its healing energies and extract the illness. When the work is done, the ball or gall should be laid upon the earth or buried so the illness can be earthed and transformed. So you're rolling it on the body to extract the illness, and then you're allowing it to be transformed into the earth. So that's that. Now, herbally, the oak is very antiseptic as well as anti-inflammatory, being useful for sore throats, skin inflammation, minor wounds, and fevers. Oak bark can be dried and made into a decoction for at least 10 minutes. This can then be gargled for sore throats and sinusitis and will staunch bleeding gums. It can also be added to hot baths for swelling. And this decoction can be taken as a woman's tonic if combined with nettle and yarrow. So that would be good for menstrual issues or menopausal symptoms. Now, bruised oak leaves ease inflammations and can be applied to bruises and sprains. This application is especially good when combined with comfrey leaves. A foot wash made of oak leaf tea soothes weary feet and also helps one to find the right path through life, which makes perfect sense because if it's a foot wash, you're going to find the right path. Love how that works. Now, Nicholas Culpeper, one of the very first herbalists, mentions using the water found in hollow bowls upon the oak tree to heal sores and skin infections. His recommendation can be attributed to the oak's antiseptic and anti-inflammatory properties, which will seep into the water. Now, water found in the trunk's nooks and crannies is especially magical and can be understood as a vibrational essence today. Such naturally occurring magic potions are created by the interaction of the tree spirit and the water spirits of the rain alone. While they are powerful, they may not be safe to drink. Instead, they can be carried on the body, applied to the skin, or stored in a witch bottle. They can even be preserved with alcohol or glycerin. Now, as a vibrational essence, oak is a great empowerer, useful for finding the energy to fight against great difficulties without loss of hope or draining of energy. It applauds courage and can instill it in those who are trying hard to endure. It helps you discover your inner sovereignty by holding and developing your inner authority and mastery, leading to a greater ability for kindness and responsibility. It is also a very powerful spirit ally that protects your connection across the worlds and keeps you grounded and present in the process. Now, divination meaning. If you were to draw this card, and I promise you guys, I'll get to more difficult spreads at the end, but I feel like if you guys put the ones that you've already learned in your bag and drew it, you guys could practice. All right. So if you guys drew this upright, Duir implies and teaches strength, security, and the ability to sustain growth over lengths of time. It helps and encourages you to open the doors of your perception and enter into initiatory experiences that allow you to do and be more than you were before, in addition to assimilating this new way of being. I love that. It is a symbol of growth in all ways, material, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual, via the connection in yourself between earth and sky, divinity and matter. As the Ogham of sovereignty, it encourages right action and being fully present and conscious of your actions, embodying wholeness and nobility. Now, if you drew it roots up, that would be reversed, and that could indicate a misuse of strength or weakness. So not calling upon that right action, not pulling in that inner power and that sovereignty, right? Okay. So that was Duir Ogham. I hope you found this informational and informative and entertaining, at least a little bit. I know I give you so much information, but hopefully you extract what you need and throw the rest away because I really gave you a lot of information today. So please give this video a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss the next one. We are doing Chin Holly next time. Yeah, the holly comes right after the oak. Isn't that funny? Right, the holly king is right after the oak king. So that's the way it works. So please go to my website at theveiledcottagewitch.com where you can book a reading, book a class, book upcoming workshops. Some will be on there very soon. Book a service. You can find all of my holistic healing and my ritual and spell supplies at reasonable prices. And if you enter the code word at checkout, all caps veiled, you can get free shipping just for watching this video. So that is my gift from me to you. So don't skip that step. Otherwise, please, if you would like to financially support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. All the details are going to be down in the description box, or you can just scan this QR code here, but absolutely no pressure. Just live your best life and live for yourself. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.